Hello, Honors Bulls. Judy Genshaft Honors College Dean Charles Adams here. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Honor Roll podcast. This week, we have a special two-part episode for you. First, you'll hear a conversation with Rohitram Upendram, a recent honors grad, who will talk about his experience not just as a student, but as an inventor who harnessed his natural curiosity in the world around him and found opportunities to create devices to help others, ultimately securing 2 provisional patents while still a student here at the Honors College. Then, later in the episode, Dr. Cayla Lanier, Assistant Dean and Campus Director for the Honors College at the Sarasota-Manatee campus, will join the show to share a little bit about Atala Hall, Sarasota-Manatee campus's new residence hall, and the fantastic opportunities students can expect as members of our soon-to-be Sarasota-Manatee Honors Living Learning community. It's a jam-packed episode, so let's get right to it. Cue the theme music.
Hey Honors Bulls, welcome to the Honor Roll podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I'm Mridula Singh, a fourth-year student studying biomedical sciences and psychology here at the University of South Florida, Tampa campus, and a member of the Honors College. Today, my co-host is Fabi, a second-year student studying marketing and business analytics here at the Honors College. Fabi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey Mridula, it's great to be here. As you said, I'm a business student, and I am also a marketing assistant here at the Judy Genshaft Honors College.
So, as always, we like to start off the podcast with one big question. So my question today is, have you ever broken a bone?
Ooh, never. Although when I was running a 5K last year, I had this really sharp pain, and I later realized it was a minor fracture, and I had to walk the rest of the way home. So it was really painful. What about you?
Well, I mean, I can relate. I'm in a boot right now. So I'm not a fracture, but still, I understand.
That's good. I hope that heals quickly.
Yeah, I hope so. Speaking of the healing process and braces, we have Rohitram Upendram here to tell us about the patent and his motivation behind getting this project done.
Hi, this is Corbin LaShawn, and I'm an alumni of the University of South Florida Honors College, and I'm originally from Tampa Bay, Florida. My favorite honors experience or memory was living in the honors dorm at USF. I really enjoyed the connections that I made and all of the friendships. What I would say to somebody thinking about joining the Judy Genshaft Honors College is do it. It was the best decision that I made while I was at USF.
Hey Bulls, today Fabi and I are here with honor student Rohitram Upendram to talk a little bit about his patent. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Rohitram Upendram, and I'm a third-year biomedical sciences here at the Honors College, and I have a minor in public health.
All right, so recently you had the opportunity to have a patent approved for an invention. Would you like to give us a brief intro of what exactly that invention was?
Sure. The invention is basically a brace modification, and it's a sort of stand to help elevate the leg, especially when it's injured and swollen.
Okay, and what inspired this project?
So last winter break, I went to go shadow and assist a CT surgeon in South Dakota. So on the last day I was there, I had a fall, and that resulted in a knee injury. So since that was the last day, I was sort of coming home on the airport. And at the layovers, I found myself having not a lot of space to have my leg elevated. So basically, all the chairs were occupied. The suitcases just kept falling down every time I put my leg on them. So I realized that I needed a better, sustainable way to sort of elevate my leg over long periods of time. So it was during those hours that I started brainstorming, basically, to try to find ways to keep it elevated. And at first I thought of a little bubble that would wrap around your knee and that'd keep it elevated. And I was like, wait a second, that'll make your foot drop, so that's not useful. So then I thought of something that extends all the way down to the ankle. And then I thought, now we're getting somewhere. So I basically started sketching out a few different things. And that's sort of where the project started.
That's really cool.
And can you tell us a little bit about your creative process and the design and what it looked like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to go over my background a little bit, I don't have a lot of engineering experience. I had a short stint in robotics during my high school, and that's where I was mainly working with the mechanical parts of the robot. So I sort of knew, how the screws look, how I would, if I'd change the lever setting of this one, what happened to the other side of the axle? So things like that I would have some sort of idea with. But I would say just a bunch of really messy sketches was how the process of design really started. And I started going more in depth. I even let my sister look at a few of the pictures, and I was like, does this make sense to you? Does this look nice? And then she was like, yeah, it's getting somewhere. I kind of see what it's supposed to do now. So it was, during these little moments that I sort of happened to come up with a proper design of how it's supposed to look. And then later on, in order to find a patent, I had to go online, look at different patent services and searches basically to see if this product was truly on there. And that's when I contacted one of the patent attorneys that I had down in the Sarasota area. So it was only after I went there that I realized how a proper, patent was supposed to look like for a modification design for something like this.
That's really cool. So how did you go about getting the patent? I know you talked about having an attorney, but did you have any help from your peers or from, the doctor that you shadowed, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So just to get a little bit of background, I actually have another patent before this, a provisional patent. So that's for a fireman's ladder. So basically, I was seeing a movie with my family a few years ago, and we were seeing one where the fireman was trying to bring down several, people from a burning building and carrying several important objects at the same time. So this man, already with the weight that he was carrying, with the tools that he was struggling up here. So in order to properly, send all these objects down, he was struggling to go, step by step. And we sort of, after seeing the movie, I sort of thought, how could I possibly make this, easier for the fireman to get all these objects down? So I came up with a lever design at the top, where with the push of a lever, all the steps of the slide just become parallel, and they they turn into a slide from the steps they were. And this will help sort of transport people down. And that was sort of the patent idea for that one. Now, that process was much more lengthier. It was much more difficult because that was my first time. And, it took several years for it to get from, concept to proper, provisional patent is how it was supposed to be.
Right.
And I would say that patent sort of paved the way for this one. And I sort of had an idea of where to go with the specific designs.
So from start to finish of the whole process, can you explain a little bit more about the mechanism of the brace?
Sure, yeah. So basically the brace is going to be a two-pronged setup. So depending on where the injury is, the prong would sort of be, fitted and conformed to where the part of the leg basically needs to be elevated. So if that's an ankle injury, then the prong is going to be, the bottom is going to help elevate it further up. Whereas if it's the knee, then it's going to be closer to the knee. So this modification extends all the way down from the ankle up to the knee. And it's sort of dependent on the injury. And, as I kept coming up with this idea, I thought that maybe we could also apply it to the arm. So now I'm also coming up with designs that I could apply to the arm. And, once consulting the orthopedic doctor, he said that would be more useful actually for the arm. Because right now, the standard of care is tables and pillows. So for the leg, you can just elevate it. But with the arm, we're sort of constantly moving it. Even, non-consciously, we don't realize that we're moving things with the arms. So to keep it sustainably elevated, this brace modification would be much more useful.
Explore the world of research with the University of South Florida Undergraduate Research Portal. This centralized online portal paves the way to exciting research opportunities filled with discovery and personal growth. It will connect you with the right research lab, professors, and mentor relationships at USF. The perfect research opportunity is just one click away. Search USF Research Portal or visit the Judy Genshaft Honors College website to learn more.
So you kind of touched on this, but where would you like to take this project going into the future, kind of with your path and everything?
Yeah, so far, all the conceptual ideas of it is basically just sort of decided. It's sort of really bringing the idea into something tangible that we could be using, basically a prototype. So as I explained before, I don't have a lot of engineering experience, so I've started speaking with the USF's Research and Innovation Office. So that's where I'm sort of taking it to. I would love to make this a bigger project for other USF students, and together we can work on it and make it into something much bigger. Obviously, I would like to see this in hospitals everywhere, and that's kind of my goal. So I would truly like to make something of this into a proper prototype. And it's only once we get to the prototype that we realize what's wrong with it. I mean, right now it's cool that I have the ideas and everything, but to see, once we put it on an actual person and we're going to see how they move, then I'll realize maybe this part of the modification is useless. Maybe there's a better way to show it. So then we go back to the drawing board, sort of. So there's a lot of different steps involved, and it's really not a one-way streamlined process where you just move from step 1 to step 2. You're definitely going to have to go back to step 1 for some things.
I think that's really interesting, and I like that you're working with mentors and, specialists in the field with this. Have you had anybody actually use the brace, or will you have to do like some sort of trial runs?
There'll definitely need to be a trial run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sort of mimicked it. So this is obviously very, very far from what it's supposed to be, but I sort of took like a little rod, the brace, and I sort of tied around my ankle. And then it sort of extend up, and I just sort of decided to see how it'd feel for it to be completely encased. I've never really had like a boot or something like that for it to be encased. So and then I just started doing, exercises. I'm doing physical therapy. So it really helps to sort of strengthen my muscles, but at the same time, see how the, physics of it would work in a proper circumstance. But that's a good point, though. I definitely need to do a trial run and try to see how it works out.
Do you feel like this experience has either informed you about, you were talking about, the lack in medicine, or has changed your future approach to medicine?
Yeah, I would say that basically even coming up with the idea I used through my experiences, just through my other experiences. Now, it's cool that I got injured and everything, and that's how I sort of came up with this idea. But definitely seeing, which sort of patients that this would be useful for. I wouldn't have got that without my volunteering experience at the free clinic down south. So, and then I wouldn't have, really realized how the engineering aspects would go without a little bit of robotics and my other ideas, other projects that I'm working on. So it's definitely a cumulative process. And I would say that there's really, you'd think that with modern medicine, there's sort of a stopping point that you see, okay, we're sort of getting somewhere and it's sort of like done, we're almost there. But there really is no almost there. It's a sort of like, you have to truly come up with some of the ideas on your own, and you just got to combine it with knowledge that we already have. And that's how we sort of take a step forward. And I think that that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to try to keep an open mind and then move forward with basically all the ideas that are already there in order to make it into something greater.
So the Honors College hosts a wide array of students with varying passions and degree paths. Something you mentioned was that necessity is the mother of invention, and a lot of our honors students have lived and experiential events that inspire them. So how did you get to know about this process?
Yeah, so as I explained before, I have a previous patent in this, so I sort of that's how I sort of know the process of it. But one big difference since then was the amount of healthcare experiences that I've had. Specifically, if this brace modification was in the hospital environment, basically where I wanted to belong, how is it going to be properly employed, and who is going to be basically using it at this time? So that's sort of the previous patent was basically the gateway into this one, and to basically fast track it into a provisional patent.
Do you have any tips for students who are looking to do something like this themselves, like where to start? Any tips for those beginners, finding mentors?
Yeah, well, definitely don't break your leg. That's one important thing. But I would just say try to identify a need in your community, I would say. Basically, just pay attention to everything that you see around you, and then wherever you experience, whatever you experience, try to find a need that you could sort of try to find a better solution to. And in order to find a proper need, that means you need to get involved with your community a lot. As I said before, I needed to have a lot of healthcare experiences, a lot of other, for example, robotics that I needed to know a little bit about for me to make this into an idea. So I would definitely say, get involved with other things, community experiences, make sure you make a lot of connections, because, I wouldn't have done this without the attorney that I found, without the doctors that I consulted, including the orthopedic doctor, without my family, and definitely without the USF community at this point. So I would say all of these aspects are definitely important in order, for something to get from an idea to a proper, tangible thing.
To wrap up, what was your biggest takeaway or learning moment from this experience?
Yeah, I would say I was surrounded by learning moments from an early childhood. My biggest inspiration is my father. He is an interventional cardiologist, and he has been sort of the source of inspiration for me, and his way of finding solutions to practical, age-old issues it's really contagious, I would say. And then, of course, I draw my strength from basically the idea of persistence from my 77-year-old grandfather, and he's the medical director for the Manatee County Medical Clinic. And then, of course, my mother, she's a psychiatrist, and she's served in the local community and across the nation. And basically her selflessness and generosity has been really helpful in basically pushing this idea forward.
So you would say your biggest takeaway is something just like kind of like learning about how to get in those shoes before medicine kind of thing.
I would definitely say, yeah. I mean, they've obviously been, great role models to me, but definitely having this support, while you're in the moment, while you're deciding these ideas, you sort of see an end path and then sort of how to incorporate that into your journey. So it's definitely an image of, what's there beyond you, but at the same time, it's just a great inspiration and strength to keep moving forward, basically.
I think that also goes to say that you can find inspiration all around you, and those who may not have people in medicine around them, they should go out and look for mentors and learn from those experiences as well.
For sure.
Well, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for all your great insight into your amazing achievement.
Thank you so much, Mridula and Fabiana, for having me here today.
Hey, Honors Bulls. Today I'm here with Assistant Dean at the Sarasota-Manatee Honors Campus, Dr. Cayla Lanier. She's going to tell us all about the new residence hall on the Sarasota-Manatee campus. Hey, Dr. Lanier.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Would you like to just kind of tell us about the new hall that's opening up, how students can apply, and when those residence halls will be opening?
Yeah, so we're so excited to have our second building on the Sarasota-Manatee campus. It's going to be a combination student center and residence hall. So student center, sort of like the Marshall Student Center here or the University Student Center in St. Pete on the first 2 floors. And then we'll have residential space on floors 3 through 6. We have a combination of apartment styles and suites, and we're really excited to be hosting a new living learning community as a part of that building opening. So many of you are familiar with the Honors LLC, or the Honors Living Learning Community. We'll be partnering with the College of Business and the College of Education to have one living learning community where students from each of those 3 colleges can live together and participate in programs hosted by all 3 of us. So honors students can benefit from some of the corporate tours that our business college will be offering. They'll be able to volunteer in local elementary schools doing literacy initiatives with our College of Education. And all of those students will also get to do some of the events that we're hosting, like Tapas Night, which is a big favorite, as well as some scholars dinners. Well, we'll bring in faculty and experts from the local community to give sort of a mini lecture about a relevant topic, and then have Q&A with the faculty over an intimate formal dinner. So our first one that we're having is Dr. Feng Hao, who is an expert in public polling. So he'll be talking about how to understand public polls ahead of the upcoming presidential election. So when you hear so-and-so is polling with so-and-so, such and such audience, then you can kind of understand what's really going on with the dynamic of how those polls are conducted and be a more informed citizen.
That's so amazing. It's really cool to hear that you guys are actually taking that interdisciplinary approach to the living learning community as well, and that honor students who maybe never would have come into contact with a student who was familiar with business, they're going to be able to obtain those experiences and learn from their skills. And I think that's really great for just building stronger and more well-rounded students. So about how many students will the new hall be able to house?
The residence hall has 200 beds, and we'll have about 30 in the living learning community. So about 10 students from honors, business, and education. And that's really about on par with the size of our campus community. So Sarasota-Manatee is the smallest of USF's 3 campuses. We have about 2,000 students total, and we have about 40 in our honors college. So this living learning community is an even more tight-knit and yet overlapping interdisciplinary community, like you are mentioning. One of the things that we do really well as a campus is personal relationships, which is, central to my heart as a leader. And so we're going to be able to maximize and leverage those relationships to build deep connections with our campus and community partners. We'll have folks like the CEO of Tervis, Tumblr, who is a USF alum, coming in to have breakfast with our students. So for students who are looking for a really close-knit, knowing everybody by their first name type community, USF Sarasota-Manatee is a brilliant place to be.
And it's a beautiful campus and a beautiful area to be in to get to study and see the water and see the beach in such a beautiful area.
Yes. Students on our 5th floor LLC will be able to watch sunsets over Sarasota Bay from their windows.
I'm so jealous. So when will those applications be open?
The applications are available now. Students will submit a housing application, and there's a question about wanting to be part of an LLC right there in the application. So there's no second step to be a part of the Living Learning community. And the building will open this August, and students will move in for the first time for fall semester.
Awesome. And is there a deadline for that date? Like students need to get their submission in by a certain time?
Of course, we want students to apply as early as they are ready to make that decision. The applications will be rolling until we fill all of our spots.
Well, Dr. Lanier, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great to have you on the podcast. I hope we can have you back in the future. And any students who are interested in the new residence halls on the Sarasota-Manatee campus, you can head on over to the Honors webpage and find more information there.
Thanks, Caroline. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Hello again. Dean Adams back with you in the studio. Thank you, Caroline and Dr. Lanier, for giving us a sneak peek on what to expect at Sarasota-Manatee and Atala Hall this fall. Love that name. Thank you also to Mridula, Fabiana, and Rohitram for their conversation about what it means to be an inventor and how to bring your ideas to life while a student here at the Honors College. Rohitram's achievements are a fantastic reminder of what it means to be an honors student here at USF. It's great to learn about his interdisciplinary approach to solving problems and inspiring to learn how his family connections drive him to help others. That will do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida, Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Abby Malloy and Professor Adam Davidson. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We appreciate your feedback. Please tune in next week when we will hear more honors stories from members of our honors community. Until next time, go Bulls!